Okay, hi and welcome to another installment of Math Basics, Mr. Besh. Today we do something that's challenging. You see, we're going to use our magical triangle to set up and solve percent word problems. Now, just as a review, because the magic triangle was a lesson inside of itself, the magic triangle is made up of three chambers. The top chamber is identified as the letter P, the lower left chamber is identified as the letter R, and the lower right chamber is identified as the letter B. When you're doing a word problem, the first thing that you need to do, without a doubt, is identify whether or not the problem has a percent or fraction in it. If there is a percent or fraction in the word problem, you need to immediately make it a decimal and put it into the R chamber. If it does not have a percent or fraction in the word problem, then you simply put an X in the R chamber, because that is what you're going to be asked to find. It'll say what percent is this, blah, 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 blah. Okay? That you need to do without a doubt first. Second thing that you need to notice is this. If my percent is greater than 100, then that means the value of P, the top of the triangle, is going to be greater than the value of B in the lower right chamber. Most of the time, the middle part happens. If my percent is less than 100, then the value of P is going to be less than the value of B. And last but not least, if my percent is 100, then the value of P is going to be exactly the same as the value of B. So here's what we need to do. I got three examples that we're going to talk about. Question number one. John earns a 10% commission on all furniture sales. How much must he sell to earn a commission of $336? Right off the bat, take the percent, make it a decimal, stick it in the chamber of R. So that's going to be 0.1, boom, it's in there, and I'm done. First part. Second thing I need to do is this. 336 is the other value in the problem. You see, every one of these word problems are going to give you two values. And what you need to do is you need to determine where do you stick these two values into my triangle, because one of the values is always going to be missing, and that's always going to be my X value. So now I take a look at 336, and I have to decide something. I need to read the math question here, and I need to determine this. Is 336 going to be bigger than or less than my answer? Now, we're not guessing what our answer is. We're guessing the fact of, is my value going to be bigger than 336 or less than 336? Because it matters. Because we go back to this, if my percent is less than 100, which it is, then the p-value is going to go on top of the triangle and the b-value is on the bottom, and I know the p-value has to be less than the b-value. That's why it's so very important. So then one of our vocabulary terms that we did in this section was commission. Commission is the amount of money that you earn on depending upon how much money that you sell. And we already talked about that sales are always much bigger than commissions that you earn. So now as a result, taking a look at this, 336 is the commission that this person, John, wants to earn. And if he earns a commission of 336, that means he has to sell a lot more money worth of furniture. So now 336 is going to be my smaller value. And back to this chart, if my percent's less than 100, which it is in the middle column here, then the P is going to be less than B. That means 336 needs to go to the top of my triangle. Okay? Remember, B always has to be the bigger value if my percent is less than 100, and it is. So now in this triangle, how we do the triangle works as the following. If you have a number on the top and a number on the bottom like I do, then that is showing you division. So you need to take 336 divided by 0.1, and you end up getting $3,360. This means that if John earns a percent commission of 10% and he sells $3,360 in furniture, he is going to make his $336. And that is how this problem is set up and all the problems that follow. My second question. Ashley got a score of 80% on her last French test. There were 50 questions on the test. How many questions did she get right? Okay, first thing I do, 80%, make it a decimal, stick it in my triangle for R. So that's going to be 0.8. The next thing I need to do is look at 50 and then read the question and identify, does the answer that they want from me, is it going to be bigger than 50 or less than 50? This was an easy one. If there's 50 questions on a test and Ashley only gets 80%, that means she missed questions. That means the number I'm looking for has to be less than 50. So now what's going to be unknown in the math problem is the top. The p-value is going to be unknown because the p-value is going to be less than 50. The bigger number, remember, if my percent is less than 100, which it is, 80% is less than 100, then the b value is going to be the biggest value. And the biggest numerical value I have here is 50. Now, translating the triangle, if the terms are in both bottom chambers, that means multiply. So then I take 0.8 times 50, and then as a result, I will get 40 questions as my answer. So if Ashley's taking this test, it has 50 questions on this test, and she earns 80%, it means that she gets 40 questions correct. Okay? Last but not least, my third example. I look at the problem. Whoa, I got a problem. There is no percent. There is no fraction in this problem. So that means in my triangle for R, I put in an X. Now I got two numbers. Again, I see the word commission. When I see commission and I'm talking about percents, I need to recognize that, you know what, it's going to be less than 100. All right, because no commission is more than 100%. Very rarely would that ever happen. So as a result, when I take a look at these values, $135,000 for the house, he earns $17,550 on commission. Well, if my percent's less than 100, then the small number needs to go on top and the large number needs to go on the bottom. So then my triangle takes this shape. And this means I take the top value divided by the bottom value. And when I do that, I get approximately 0.13. Well, guess what? The question's asking me for what percent. So now I have a decimal value. I need to make my decimal value a percent value by multiplying it by 100. So 0.13 becomes 13%. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how you tackle word problems using my magical triangle. I hope you found this both helpful and informative.